Hi friends, how are you? Welcome back to the channel. Is it also baffling to you that it's already the 29th of June? Like, where did the first half of 2024 go? I mean, I know I'm on the notes now, but the concept of time just sometimes like trip me up a little bit. Like, we're here today for a recap. These are my top 10 dramatic fanfiction that I have read so far in the year 2022. Obviously, that means that I read these fanfiction from January to June. So, I mean, that's the shortest intro I can do for you, so let's get the video started, shall we? First, where do I even begin to unpack this fic? That's when you know a fic is good, okay? Because we have Bloody, Slutty, and Pathetic by What Murder. Now, I have said it in a couple of my videos before, but this story is just kind of like the hottest summer read for this year. Like the newest it girl on the block with Hermione fanfiction, because it's everywhere and everyone is raving about it. I want to read that story too because I want to be trendy with you guys too. I read it. I understand now. So let's get into it. This story opens up for us post-war with a marriage law story, a controversial one at that, because they dared to match Draco Malfoy, the Death Eater, with Hermione Granger, the Golden Girl. The Death Eater and the Golden Girl fighting each other at every step of the way until the Golden Girl find out that the Death Eater blood is actually beneficial for her curse scar that the Death Eater aunt gave her. So sorry, let me try again. Draco Malfoy and Hermione Granger was controversially matched with a marriage law, and they of course are fighting that match every step along the way until Hermione Granger find out that Draco Malfoy blood is actually beneficial for the curse scar that Bellatrix Lestrange gave her during the war. So how do they handle that? How they handle that is this whole story for us to read. First of all, you guys know how much I love marriage law story. I have already made a whole video on marriage law story already, and I can confidently say with my whole chest that this story is going to be my number one, my new number one marriage law story. Because where do you even find this plot in a marriage law story elsewhere? I love the writing of this story. I obviously love the plot of this story as well as the details, because we have some of the most unique, refreshing, and new details that I have never seen in a dramatic fanfiction before. But I need to say that I have a love-hate relationship with the characterization of Draco and Hermione and the romance. I don't know if I'm spoiling the story for you guys, but Hermione is just so insufferable in this. But she's not alone, because Draco is also just as toxic as you can get in this story too. But don't get me wrong, I mean the characterization just works perfectly well with the story, the premise, the situation that they are in, and it kind of like contributes to the relationship development between Draco and Hermione too, because you will get the most realistic and painful relationship development there are out there. I would even dare to say that this is one of the most top-tier dynamic between Draco and Hermione that I have ever encountered. That say a lot, because you know how vanilla I am with the relationship development between Draco and Hermione. I would usually go for like the fluffy, understanding, soft love type, but this story scratch an itch that I didn't even know I had. The love is just so fiery, so spicy, so hot, and it stresses me out, of course. That's why I have a love-hate relationship with it. But do I come back and reread every single details an unhealthy amount of time after I finish reading this story? Apart from those praises that I have for Bloody, Slutty, and Pathetic, if you love a Neville characterization, especially when he's paired with Pansy, then I think this story is going to be perfect for you, because we have like a hot love between Neville and Pansy too. To be honest, I skim over the part of romance where it doesn't concern Hermione because I'm that type of person. But if that's what you're looking for, if you want like a razzle dazzle of something else within your Hermione story, I feel like this story is gonna be perfect. Another thing that I really love about this story is that usually marriage law story only focus on the politics around the marriage law itself, but this story though, it goes way deeper into how the ministry works, the in and out of the ministry, and the politics behind like the whole ordeal, which is super refreshing for me to read and also provide like such a depth to the story too. So kudos to What Murder for executing that so perfectly well. So overall, I am just speechless about this story, and that's usually mean a good thing, because I typically find that it's beyond me to cast an opinion on a great piece of work, great piece of fanfiction. I am thoroughly in love with this story, and I would say that I would recommend this story for you any day of the week, and I feel like you should read it for this summer because it's just hot. It's like match the hotness of the outside, okay? And I have a reading vlog incoming. It goes into details why this story stresses me out, but at the same time, I crave something like this too after such a long period of time reading just like vanilla love. So I mean, overall, I love this story, and I would love for you guys to love this story too, so please go ahead and give it a go, okay? Did you enjoy the Bloody, Slutty, and Pathetic Draco art that was on my thumbnail? Because if you did, then go ahead and give my girl some love, okay? Okay, next. I know I sound like a broken record, and I have said that I sound like a broken record in another video too, but we have Oscar Love Annam by My Delphi. This is just my #1 ultimate dramatic comfort read that I have found. I'm just so content. I'm so happy. I'm good. This story started out for us after the punch that Hermione gave Draco in 3rd year. He needed a way to get back to her, and so he came up with a brilliant idea that later turned out into this whole situationship that neither of them want to address, which is like my arsenal with Hermione fanfiction, because first Hogwarts, second secret relationship, what would have been in the background, like away from Harry's eye, had Draco and Hermione had something going on in the background. That's everything that I want to read in a Hermione fanfiction. If you think that enemy to lover can only be highlighted and can only be impactful in wartime story, then I would think that give Osculum Annam a go, because we have enemy to lover in this story too, but it's more in like the schoolyard softy love type of thing. The writing of Osculum Annam is very simple, it's straightforward, but it's super polished and effective, so you get a high quality piece of work. The details of this story, okay, is what I'm here for, because the details of this story is just a galore for something like me. That includes the characterization of Draco and Hermione and how they develop their relationship and the turning points and the moment that they share. Everything that I want to read in a Hermione fanfiction packaged up in one fic. I don't know Osculum Annam, but I feel like we can be best friends if I ever see her in real life. Now, I have already said way too much about Osculum Annam for you to not go ahead and read this story, okay? Please go ahead and read it, because I love this story with my whole chest, and this story just makes me so soft on the inside. Osculum Annam is like the perfect choice, okay? Next is also something that I have read about so many times before, but we have Tea and Necromancy by Save Our Skinship. This is actually the first Hermione that I have ever read in the year 2024, and it's now on my top 10. This is an 8-year post-war story at Hogwarts with a very unique plot. Draco Malfoy came back to Hogwarts for his 8th year, only to find that Hermione Granger has verbally declared herself dead, with no one paying attention to that statement and no one care about what's wrong with Hermione Granger. So of course, Mr. Draco Malfoy had to take it upon himself and investigate that statement, like why is Hermione Granger thinks that she's dead, and he stumbled upon some problem that he probably isn't ready to solve. So anyway, this story is a very healing piece, but not in a way that is like overly cheesy or overly fluffy. The text for this story is actually very dark, so I would say that you make sure to read the text before you start this story. So I would say that this story introduced a very realistic air into the healing process post-war, but at the same time it's like very soft and tender. Someone who doesn't stomach dark story like myself can still enjoy and fall in love with. I love how they are to each other in this story and how healing being around one another. I feel like this is probably the softest Draco that I've ever encountered in a Hermione fanfiction, and I just love him for this. And I especially love Hermione in this story as well. I feel like the way that the author built their character is just so perfectly well done. We have such delightful banter between Draco and Hermione in this story, and they are the smart kind of banter, you know, like the one that leave you satisfied and smiling like a loon when you read this story. And we have a sign of not part 2, so if you like that laugh, you like that humor, you like the unhinged that Theo and Harry usually bring to Hermione story, then I feel like this is gonna be perfect for you. I feel like this story is just so well balanced with fluff and angst, realistic element of healing post-war, as well as humor and banter. Like it's just everything delightful that you want to read, so I would give the story a go. Next is a story that I believe is no longer on the internet. I think that the author has taken their work down and also removed their profile on AO3, but I still want to talk about it because it's one of the best stories that I have ever read this year. And we have Malfoy's Advocate by Billy Medusa. If you ever come across this fic again, just by looking at the synopsis, you will not be able to tell what this story has in store for you. And after I finish the story, I feel like that's kind of intended by the author, because this story is just so deep, so multi-layered, and so complex, you guys. This is a Mafia AU story with a heavy focus on the characterization of a Mafia Draco. The author navigates beautifully across the twist and turn and the deep and the complex of the plot for us, because this story is just so multi-dimensional, like I've said, and the complicated web of characters that she has introduced into her story. Many of them are even original characters from the author herself, and they all related to each other in this kind of like spider web that I was even wondering why I was reading this story for free when I was reading it. And mind you, this story was under 100,000 words, and in order to achieve such a plot and such a web of characters and how they're all like intertwined together under 100,000 words, it's just something that is like beyond me. The writing is just top tier, and the details in this story are just out of this world, and the characterization and the romance between Draco Draco and Hermione is both hard and heartbreaking at the same time. It's just very perfectly executed with a little bit of everything to keep you on your toes and keep you reading. This story will just like keep you on the edge of your seat, hitting that next chapter button every time. And of course, I have already alluded to this before, but we have a mafia boss Draco in this, okay? Probably have the most top tier Draco Malfoy that you can ever read, so that's why I feel so bad for talking about this when you guys cannot enjoy it anymore. This story is very dark, and I dare even say that this story is probably the darkest story that I have ever read in recent times. So overall, I feel like this story is a special piece of work that I will never forget about. Really regretted that you cannot enjoy this piece anymore, but if you ever come across Malfoy's Advocate on the internet later on, please give it a go. If you're good with the tag, of course, because please read the tag before you read this story, okay? Next, we have a tanker of a plot again, but as a lesser degree of darkness, and we have Beyond Recalls and Desire by Van Miner. This story also presents to us a very unique premise. During his wedding ceremony to Astoria Greengrass, Draco Malfoy finds out that he has been so bonded to a witch in the past without his knowledge that it had happened, as well as who the witch is. So when he was trying to get so bonded to Astoria, his magic didn't take because he's been so bonded to someone else and he doesn't know who that someone else is. I have read some of the author notes throughout the story, and I've come to know that this story is a way for the author to experiment with writing many tropes, and the author has called this story a trope soup themselves. And I would have to say that if this is a soup, then the author must be a chef, because this soup is just like so masterfully done given how many ingredients went into this soup. You would love this story if you're into a very intricate plotline that has events that are intertwined with each other, a web of side characters who bring flavor and color, and by that I mean Theo, Harry, Lucius, and Narcissa Malfoy. Some other characters that for the purpose of not spoiling the story I cannot name, as well as high quality writing and smart prose, banter, humor between Draco and Hermione. It has everything that you need. No matter how much you prepare for this story by looking at the synopsis or the tag, you will never be fully prepared for this story. So if you're in store for a little bit of something unexpected, I feel like this story is going to be a perfect candidate too. I love how Draco and Hermione are viewing this story. I think they are lovely and understanding, and I love the romance between them. I love the humor, but the only complaint that I have for Draco and Hermione in this story is I feel like their romance personally is a little bit more of a steppy thing like this than a fluid upslope like this. And the second thing is, as I've mentioned, this story has many tropes for us in store, so sometimes it may feel a little bit overwhelming. But in a nutshell, this story is a great piece of Dramione fanfiction that I would reread. It has a plot that stands out among a sea of other Dramione fanfiction, very high quality writing and detailed development and everything. So I would give this story a go, and I would reread this story like I have said. Next is something very different. This story is truly the one that you will never be prepared for what you will encounter in this story, no matter how you think you are prepared. It's just beyond me. It's out of my mind. We have Here's the Deal by Lillian Silver. The author has labeled this fic as a crack fic, and I didn't believe her. But then after I read the story, then I feel like there are no other way for you to describe this story. It's a crack fic. It's an experience. You have to go out there and experience it, because there's just no way that I can explain the experience to you. This story begins for 8 years at Hogwarts, where Draco and Hermione is trying to use one another for their own personal gain, and somewhere along that line, they both came up with the brilliant idea of making the other person fall in love with them. I mean, we already know how that goes. They are real idiots in this, okay? Capital letter, real idiots. They never stop playing in this story until the very end, and they stressed me out so much throughout the whole reading experience. I was like this close to drop out of the story because I just cannot take their games anymore. But then it took a turn, and I was like wholeheartedly in love. It was very well done, and I reread the last couple chapters of the story just an unhealthy amount of time. So this story will go for you from very smoothly, very crazy, to like heartfelt angst, to like a very hard-earned happy ending at the end. I want to say that a bonus to this story is a cunning Lucius, but then I kind of want to redact my statement because everyone in this story is just unhinged. But at the same time, I'm also so soft and so tender for the small moments, like the small fan service that we were given. I feel like this story would be good for someone who has read Dramione for so many years, and you find that Dramione fanfiction are not stimulating for you anymore. Like you feel like every Dramione fanfiction that you read are just the same as the last. And this story will just solve that problem for you. So if that's what you are looking for, you want a good laugh, if you want something that will blow the water away for you, then I feel like this story is going to be perfect. I feel like my review for that story also sum up the experience that you will get for this story too, because I wasn't less unhinged in the story, but Now you know what I mean. Next story is something that I've already raved to you guys about. We have Living the Dream by Ally 147. This is my second experience with a Villa Draco fic. Turn out I have read the story before and dropped out of it and then came back into it. Never knew that I had read some of it before. But the second time that I was in this story just like took my soul away from me because I was so in love with this story. In this story, we have a Villa Draco approaching 30 years old without finding who his mate is, and that is a very dangerous thing for villas to approach such an age without having a mate. So Draco and Blaze, we have Blaze in this so you guys know how the story will go, but him and Blaze came up with a business idea of Draco being a high-class escort so that it increased the probability of him finding his mate, you know, in the city of his client. So obviously, you know who Draco's mate is. So this story, this is just a journey for us to witness Draco getting there. First, finding out who his mate is, having that be funny, and secondly, telling her that she's his mate. Because knowing Draco Malfoy, you know that the second part is harder than the first one, right? I thought that this story would be very smoothie, very spicy, very lemony, but it turns out to be this love story that is so romantic, so tender, so lovely that I just keep rereading it. And I especially love both the characters of Draco and Hermione in this. They are very mature and understanding, probably given their age in this. Bonus, we also have kind of like a rich girl Hermione, upper class Hermione in this story as well. And I always am in love and will go to read a Hermione that is from the upper class. In my head canon is that Hermione cannot be poor. Girl is mint. Girl has 2 dentist parents running their own practice in London. Like, girl cannot be lacking table manners for that matter, you know what I mean? So if you guys know recommendation where she can match his wealth, let me know in the comment down below, okay? Because I would love to read it. Back to Living the Dream, I feel like this story just has my whole heart, especially if you have not had a chance to read a Villa Draco before. I feel like this is gonna be a very good gateway for you, and it may even open up an obsession with Villa Draco for you too. It's perfect in every way possible. The writing, the plot, the angst, the fluff, the moments, the details, and I especially love that the author didn't rush that happy ending for us at the end. Well balanced, well done, masterfully. Next, we have Mr. and Mrs. Malfoy by P.H. Locke. P.H. Locke also wrote one of my favorite one-shot too. It's Slowly Toward Desire. This story is also another very special piece. If you cannot tell from the title alone, this story opened up for us with Draco and Hermione, married husband and wife, and having a very seemingly perfect life, but they both harbor some secrets from the other person. That sounds good. That sounds like fun. Story is just a perfect blend of action in dramione, a little bit of a mystery to keep us reading and turning the page, hot, fiery love between our lovebird, and also some very romantic details, very heartfelt details on the way too. I would say that this story also has one of the more unique dynamics between Draco and Hermione that I find, and it works so well with the premise and the situation that they are in this story. It kind of reminds me of another fic. It's The Intricacy of Marriage by Curzon. It's one of my top favorite Hermione fanfiction or like one shot ever, where they seemingly headbutt each other, but like deep down they have like so much care, so much love, so much trust for the other person, so much respect too. Kind of like this pool of mutual pining, awaiting discoveries. That's just like chef kiss. This story I would say is perfect for when you want a quick read that can pack a punch. Everything that I've told you was like packaged in this small story that you can just get out in one go, but you will remember it forever. You will not be bored, is what I'm trying to say. You will not be bored with this story. The last 2 stories on my top 10 list are Hermione's Hair and Taming Granger by J.C. Victory. I would recommend that you read Hermione's Hair first because it's kind of like a prologue to Taming Granger, but the story started for us back at Hogwarts, and I think the author says 6th year, but I do not sense that a war was coming. So like their biggest concern in this story is just being a teenager, okay? But the story started out for us in 6th year, Imagine No War Hogwarts, where Draco suddenly realized that he has an obsession for Hermione Granger's hair. So he started devising a whole plan to get there, to be able to touch her hair, but he get kind of like stumble upon the way, because we all know how it goes. If you are someone who focus a lot more on the writing, the actual writing of the fanfiction, I feel like this story is going to be perfect for you, because I had such a good time just enjoying the writing of this story. This story is just written in such a smart way. It's very witty, full of intelligent remarks, and of course the details is just a bonus, and it's a little bit different than something that I've usually read. There are 6 years Hogwarts, but there's war kind of like looming over them. The dynamic is a little bit different too, and the enemies to lover is a little bit lessened, but it doesn't mean that it's not good, okay? Also, this story is gonna be perfect if you want to read more about Hermione's hair and Draco love Hermione hair. I feel like the Hermione fandom kind of like claim the hair thing as ours, but I feel like Draco and Hermione just love the other person's hair, and in my head they've always wanted to touch the other person's hair because of science. Like they want to see how it feels, and it's very delightful, very joyful to read, so I would recommend. That was my top 10 fics that I've read in the year 2024. I hope that it wasn't too speedy for you guys, and I hope that I wasn't too unhinged. Of course, I would love to read your top 10 now that we are already 6 months out of the way in the year 2024. I would love to see your best fanfiction that you've read this year too. I hope you guys have a good time hanging out with me today, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye! Big heart!